If your teenager isn't listening to you, this episode is for you. Communication is often the first thing that breaks down in adolescence. Parenting teenagers is particularly difficult. From guiding a child to supporting an adolescent, there's no manual. And often our experience as a teenager didn't provide the mentorship for wisdom in this area of parenting. It becomes extremely difficult to know how we, as parents, can do better for our children. What I'd like to talk about today is how we can do that. Welcome back to another Warrior Academy podcast. Today, we're going to be speaking about something I know is super challenging for so many parents. If you have a teenager or if you've got a young child, this is yet to come. I know for me as a parent, I'm looking forward nervously to my children who are 3 and 6 becoming teenagers so that I can eventually go through this as a parent as well. But I have helped thousands of young people transition through teenagehood and adolescence successfully and work with many, many parents around the world on this exact topic. So if you are interested in learning about how to navigate adolescence and teenagehood with your child, this episode is for you. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to the channel. So let's get started. If your teenager isn't listening to you, this episode is for you. Communication is often the first thing that breaks down in adolescence. Parenting teenagers is particularly difficult. It's a significant time of transition for you and your child as their bodies and minds start to develop and your role as their parent shifts. From guiding a child to supporting an adolescent, there's no manual. And often our experience as a teenager didn't provide the mentorship for wisdom in this area of parenting. Add to that a lot of the contradictory advice that's out there. It becomes extremely difficult to know how we as parents can do better for our children now they've hit those difficult and challenging teenage years. So what I'd like to talk about today is how we can do that. And the first thing I'd like to start that off with is the importance of communication. Communication with your teen, even through your kids. Even though your kids may be growing taller than you or develop strong opinions that conflict with your own, you want them to know you still love and support them. It would be great if you could get some tips on how to do this while maintaining mutual respect and understanding. To journey through the teenage years with as little conflict and as much trust as possible. That despite all the changes, you come out the other side with a strong bond and a relationship that looks just as filled with affection as it has always been. It requires excellent communication to do all of that. And we've got some brilliant tips to help you get there as a parent navigating adolescence with your teenager. So the first tip is that actions speak louder than words. Be present with your child. Good communication isn't just about the things you say. Some of the most effective communications happen when you say nothing at all. Focus on being present around your teenagers. It will take some practice, for sure, but by really listening to whatever your teen has to say, you'll show them you care about what's on their mind. What they choose to chat about may seem unimportant or insignificant or interesting or uninteresting to you, but listen carefully anyway. Act engaged and really try and be a part of their life in terms of what they're going through, even when it seems minor. We know it's not always easy when you have a very, very busy life and your own mind might be whizzing around and you're multitasking, doing a million things at once to actually get through your to-do list while also trying to be, as present as possible with what seems like an insignificant action. But it makes a lot of difference. When your teen feels they can talk to you about the small things, they're more likely to open up to you. And when they're more likely to open up to you about the small things, they'll also open up to you about the big things. And that's so important as the breakdown of communication typically happens during adolescence. So be present, even when it's difficult. The next thing is to empathize. Try to put yourself in your child's shoes and understand their point of view without trying to fix everything. Don't always come in to solve the problem. Just be there and listen to them. Sometimes kids just want to vent. And when you minimize their concerns in an effort to make them feel better, they feel like they're being dismissed and that you don't understand. Instead of solving that problem, listen, empathize, and validate their feelings with acknowledgement like, that must be really upsetting. Your teen will actually come away from their conversation with you feeling like they've actually been heard. And it's likely they'll be far more open to discussing their thoughts and their feelings with you in the future. That is going to be a game changer as they go through more traumatic experiences as they grow up. The next tip is to trust them. Better communicate with your teen. So it might feel counterintuitive at times, but demonstrate to your teens that you actually trust them. When you volunteer a privilege or put them in charge of something important, it sends the message to your growing kids that you trust them to do what's right and that you believe they're capable of being responsible. Giving them ownership and responsibility of a task and showing that you trust them also boosts their confidence, and they'll actually appreciate your faith in them. Together, it will actually ensure you build a strong and open dialogue. Instead of hiding things from you, they'll feel able to, approach you with new subjects and trust, and you'll be reasonable about the new parameters that they want to explore. And of course, adolescence is all about exploring new things. They've now got more freedom than ever before. So it's really important that you understand that by developing that trust in them, they are going to explore more things, but they're also going to communicate what they experience back to you so you can guide them back on path. The next thing is to be a role model. We all know how ill-tempered teens can get, but no matter how much their behavior triggers you, be the adult. Lead by example and take time to calm down when your frustration starts to bubble. It's easy to let your anger flare up and your cross words escape your mouth before you realize what you're saying. I think one of the hardest things about parenting is understanding what our own triggers are and preventing them from impacting our children. Practice being aware of your own emotions. Become an expert in regulating your own emotions. Acknowledge them and model how to deal with them. You can't expect your teen to respond maturely if your own behavior is at the mercy of whatever emotion dominates the moment. If you're reactive, so too will be your teen. So instead of heated arguments, take time out and come back together when you feel able to discuss each other's perspective without emotions taking over. Just a quick shout out to the guys at Shield who manage this podcast, come up with the strategy behind the podcast, help me schedule interviews as well as do all of the editing and the producing of the podcast. Without them, we wouldn't be able to produce this podcast. If you would like to create your own podcast, I can't recommend the Shield team enough. They have done well over 100 episodes for me over the last few years, and I've been so pleased with the results. So have a look in the description of this video or the podcast episode, and you'll see how to get in touch with them yourself. The next tip to improve communication with your teen is to have fun. Have fun with your teenager. Don't forget to have fun together. Take it in turns to do something the other enjoys and put yourself out there to try new experiences. Make the effort to clear time in your schedule to dedicate to your teen. Leave any conflict or personal matters behind and just laugh together, simply enjoying one another's company. And you'll find that that will go such a long way to ensure you remain an important person in each other's lives. Now, what I'm not saying is be their best friend. Being a parent is different to being a best friend, but have fun together in that parent-child environment. The next tip is to catch up regularly. It's actually the regular everyday activities that allow moments to share what's been going on in each other's lives. Share what's been going on in your life and listen to them when they talk about the small things. As your teen grows more independent and you become less aware of all the things that happen in their day, it's a great routine to actually get into. Chat about the things that have gone on in the last few hours, that have gone on throughout the day where you've been apart. And make sure you meet together regularly at meal times to catch up with ease. I think as a family, you can all check in with each other and ask for support. As a parent, you can ask for support. If you're going through something difficult, ask for support from the child, from the teenager, and understand what's happening from one day to the next. Starts to build up a bigger picture and gives them more of an insight and more of a context in what it means to be an adult, which is exactly what you're trying to model. The next tip is to pay attention. So by spending quality time with your teen and being present in your interactions, you put yourself in the best place to realize when things seem out of character. Bullying is one of those examples that a teenager typically goes through that's really hard to see. But if you notice when things are out of character, you can spot it and you can help. So your teen won't always feel able to share what's going on in their mind, but by taking care to observe and understand them, you'll notice when they seem out of sorts. You can often hear them, or you can offer them a listening ear, or perhaps just your company in the moment, and they'll know you're there for them, and they'll know that they can come to you when they're ready. So the next tip is all about the words you use, the words that count. So giving praise is really important. Your teen probably acts like they don't care what you say, but they really do. Your big kid still needs your appreciation and acknowledgement. So continue to praise them like you did when they were small children, accomplishing things for the first time. Navigating the world as a teenager is incredibly difficult. Any positive encouragement or affirmation you give will go a long way to build a strong bond between you. Positive interactions between you will also really help to buffer any antagonistic conversations that occur as you travel through this new chapter in your relationship. The next tip is to explain yourself. You can't expect your teen to appreciate your perspective at the best of times, but if you tend to dictate to your adolescent rather than talk to them on a level, they will switch off completely. So try to collaborate with your teen, even when you want to get out your point, or get your point across, or enforce a boundary. Explain your reasons in a calm and measured way, and ask your teen for their input on what they think would be a fair limit too. Work together to find safe structures that allow both your needs to be met where possible. This will encourage your child to feel like they're on the same team rather than the enemy. The next tip is to say sorry. There'll be many times that you'll need to say sorry to your teen. It can actually be really difficult as a parent to admit mistakes. You want to always appear right and show the right path, but part of that is admitting when you're wrong. So apologizing to your child is very important. No matter what their age is, you model how to put right, wrong, and build mutual respect in the process. So your teen will likely, put up walls if you fail to put up or put aside your ego. If you can't put aside your ego, your teen will probably put up a wall and prevent your communication from improving. If you instead apologize without excuse, you'll show them that you really care about them. If you can be prepared to expose your humanity to a level behind your role as their parent, you'll likely cement a closer relationship and better communication. Great communication with your teen starts with you. And no matter the age of your child, you remain one of the most important people in their lives. As your young child grows into their teenage years, they will need your love. They'll need your encouragement, and they'll need the security of your relationship more than ever. It's a really difficult, challenging roller coaster for parents. It's a really difficult, challenging roller coaster for parents and for teens. If you imagine for them, they have to navigate new friendships, accept their personal development, and encounter so many ups and downs, as well as the challenge of navigating hormones. You are their safe space to break against. And when you provide them with a trusting space to share who they are as they grow into their individuality, with great communication, together you can continue to build a relationship that's built on honesty, that's built on openness, that's built on safety, and built on respect. If you would like to learn more about how you can develop a relationship with great communication as your child navigates the teenage years, then just get in touch with our team. We've got so many resources on this to help you. Throughout the Warrior Academy, we've got parent and child classes that can really support you and build that close-knit bond with your teenager. So that is the end of the tips on how you can improve your communication with your teen. The most important factor, really, when it comes to helping your child develop and grow through those teenage years. If you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you like, review, and subscribe on the podcast, or just subscribe to the YouTube channel so you do not miss another episode. And I look forward to seeing you at the next one. I really hope you enjoyed today's Warrior Academy podcast episode. We're going to keep creating these episodes because I know that so many parents find them useful or get insights or get ideas about how to develop their child's character. But it all comes down to the 3 C's: confidence, conduct, and concentration. So if you want to get a deep insight into the levels of confidence your child has, the level of concentration they have, or the level of conduct they have, so that you can actually put a score next to it and then work towards increasing those scores like we do in the Warrior Academy, then I'd love to invite you to fill in the Breakthrough Area Assessment. It takes about 5 minutes of your time, and you will get a personalized PDF report on your child's 3 C's. To access the Breakthrough Area Assessment and find out your child's 3 C's score, all you need to do is go to www.breakthrougharea.com.